Hi, I'm Asher, and this is part 2 of my As I Read review of The Maze Runner, covering chapters 3 and 4. So this chapter starts with Thomas sitting at his tree, and he stands up, and he kind of seems like a creature or something in the tree, and he's like, oh, what's that? And then he meets Chuck, because Chuck's like, oh, that's a... I don't remember what it's called. Beetle blade. So he says, that's a beetle blade. And he's like, a beetle what? And he goes, that's a beetle blade. It'll not hurt you or if you don't touch it. Whatever. So then Thomas, seeking answers, goes over to the house and where the kid was screaming. And goes in and has an encounter with a bully, who I think his name is Gally. And of course, Gally's a douchebag and manipulates Thomas into going up the stairs, even though he knows he's not supposed to because he gets told by, like, everybody not to. Even Chuck, who Chuck is remarkably unhelpful, but manages to tell him that at the last second. And Thomas does it anyway. Goes up the stairs, trying to find Newt? Man, I hope that's his name. And Albie. And ends up finding them crouched over the sick Ben boy who's like disfigured and disformed and crazy looking. And then Albie's like, get out of here, I don't want to see you again till tomorrow. And is all angry. He goes, find Chuck will help you. And then he runs outside humiliated and goes, oh, Chuck's my real only friend. And then he leaves. So the part that I have a problem with is Thomas's motivation, because he goes into the house, he goes looking over there for information to get to know, more stuff. But he's been given Chuck, who's a guide, who's supposed to be his guide to help him find dinner and sleeping stuff or whatever. And Chuck just won't tell him stuff. Chapter 4 is even worse, but it's like, why didn't Chuck stop him from going into the house? If they didn't have a reason to go in, like after he runs out of the house, they just go off doing something. So Chuck knew they didn't have a reason to go into the house, yet he lets Thomas go in there anyway and follows him in. Why did he do that? Character motivation because they're dumb is way worse than character motivation because they're smart and something going bad even though they're smart. Like, I would have much rather had anything else. It's just a tiny thing, but if I noticed it, then it's irritating and it's like something I should have noticed. At least that's how I feel. Another thing is that when Albie says to him, like, go find Chuck will help you, it's wrong. That is false. Chuck has not helped at all. And in fact, into chapter 4, further does not help. Unless completely and totally by accident he says some stuff. But other than that, like, he does not purposely seem to help Thomas beyond getting him a sandwich. So it's really irritating that I'm being told Chuck is helping and Chuck is not. Furthermore, when he runs down the stairs and he runs out and he goes, oh, Chuck's my only friend. Chuck's not your only friend. He didn't stop you from going up the stairs when you knew you weren't supposed to. He let you just walk into this house for no reason and encounter a bully. You should have been doing whatever the hell Chuck was supposed to be doing, which is, I think, finding him like a place to sleep or something to eat. Instead, he just lets Thomas walk into the house. Just a little confusing to me. That's all. The thing is that stuff like that is not going to make me not read anymore, but I'm going to notice it, and I'm going to hold it against the guy as an author, because maybe other people wouldn't notice stuff like that, and maybe I'm being nitpicky, but that's annoying to me. Chapter-wise, information-wise, it is good, but my problem with it is that it's all fueled by your character doing something dumb. And even if it's not dumb, it's just something that they wouldn't do, or if they did feel like they were going to do, Chuck as his guide would have stopped him. That's my opinion. But you did have a good thing where he finally meets the bully, Gally, and he's like, what's your problem with me? Which is a good question, because Gally's like giving him death stares and stuff. And Gally essentially says something like, not many people have been through the changing. I guess the changing is something where, like, if you get bit by a griever, then you go through a changing or something unless you get a serum, which I guess that's what Ben is doing. He's got a serum. He's been bit by a griever, or stung, as they say, and so now he's undergoing a changing. I don't know what that means yet. So Gally says that he's undergone that changing, and in the changing, he says he's seen Thomas, and he doesn't like him because of that, which That's not bad character motivation. That's a legitimate thing. He remembers him somehow, seeing him, and doesn't like him. So, okay, that's not bad. I want to know more. I'm excited to know more. But that's the only thing where I felt like I was like, yeah, he doesn't like him because he's had, essentially, as far as I can tell, he's had shitty dreams with him in him. You know, if I have a dream about you and in my dreams you're a dickbag to me, then when I see you in real life, I'm probably going to have a disposition against you. I understand that that's essentially what's happening with Gally to Thomas. This is only chapter 3, and the chapters are short. But as far as my understanding goes, that's what's happening. One interesting thing that's revealed or clarified in chapter 3 is that Chuck knows that Thomas can remember his name. Thomas makes the connection, oh, Chuck knew that I knew my first name. So they must all remember their first names, which is a weird thing because they also don't remember other details, which is odd. Another thing is that a little bit of the slang is explained here. Like, well, one word, as far as I can tell, which is clunk, which means crap, poop. I can already tell that I know it's a young adult novel, and I was hoping that the language would be, I guess, just a little bit more adult. But nope, he's going to use these made-up words, this dialect that the children have, as swear words, essentially. Which I guess, I don't know. It's towing a line. It's either really smart and inventive, or it's really wimpy because he doesn't want to use adult language in his book. Maybe it's not wimpy. Maybe he just wants to sell books to children and doesn't want to swear. I've been an avid reader for a long time, and I read more adult stuff all the time. So to go from like I just finished Lisey's Story by Stephen King. Super adult, super complex, the language and even she has her own little dialect things that she does all the time. That whole stuff is very complicated, and I really loved reading it. And there was still some adult language in there, but with their own dialect. This seems to me like it's just going to be only the dialect and only dumbed down for younger kids. So chapter 4 starts with Thomas sitting at his tree again, waiting for Chuck to bring him food, which he does. It's a sandwich, and it's actually like ham, cheese, and mayonnaise, and a thing of water. There's something else. But this brings up a thing where I'm like, where are they getting food? Where are they getting mayonnaise? That's a big question for me. I'll touch more on that later. Essentially, after they have their food, Thomas is asking questions while they're eating, and Chuck is not giving answers. Thomas realizes that Chuck knows more than he's saying, but he's not saying it, which is ridiculous because it's through all this, if Chuck is supposed to be his guide, then he should be telling him things. It's so maddening. I can't. It's really making it difficult for me to read this. So, and maybe a regular person is just not. Maybe I'm totally weird, but it's so irritating. I really don't like Chuck. And it's even worse because Thomas again references in this chapter that, oh, he's not alone. He has Chuck. Chuck's been nothing but a douchebag. Sure, he brought him sandwich, but sandwich doesn't make up for, hey, you're in a crazy new world. I know answers and I'm not going to tell you because I don't have a reason that I'm not telling you. Sorry, that's not good enough for me as a reader. That's irritating. So Thomas is curious about the big doorways in the walls, in each of the 4 walls. So he starts to walk towards one, and Chuck is like, hey, that's the east door. And he's like, well, Thomas doesn't know. He's like, what door? It's like, the big fucking opening. Chuck is like, the big, huge opening in the wall. Like, that's the doorway. And Thomas is like, oh, they close? And he's like, yeah, they have to close. And then something about runners coming back. During this conversation, Chuck slips up and says something about the maze out there. And then Thomas is like, whoa, wait, you just said it's like a maze out there when you said you didn't know what was out there before. And this is so irritating. I'm going to read the part so that you can understand how irritating it is. Chuck threw his arms up, clearly frustrated. I don't know. They just move. Makes one heck of a grinding noise. Same thing happens out in the maze. Those walls shift every night too. Thomas, his attention suddenly snapped up by a new detail, turned to face the younger boy. What did you just say? Huh? You just called it a maze. You said, same thing happens out in the maze. Chuck's face reddened. I'm done with you. I'm done. He walked back toward the tree they'd just left. He's done? What? Why wouldn't he have just told him it's a maze? Irritating. Ugh. I hope there's some answers to this beyond Chuck is just a fucking idiot. I really hope there is, because it's irritating as hell. So after Chuck stomps off like a dickbag and just is mad that he, for some reason, mad that Thomas knows it's a maze all of a sudden, then Thomas is like, oh yeah, I guess it is a maze, and starts to walk towards the doorway, the east door. I think Chuck gets nervous that he's walking too close to the door or whatever, and runs back to him later or whatever. But when Thomas walks up to the east door, a runner, they're just called runners I think, comes out of the maze and runs by him really fast, looking exhausted. Not just out of the east door, but out of all the doorways, runners come running out and run into a middle thing, I don't remember, it was like a cement building in the middle of the glade with a big submarine wheel crank to get in. So all the runners that come in, it didn't say how many, just like some from each one. I don't know if it was like one from each. Maybe it'll clarify later, but the runners run into that thing, open the door, and then go in. And he's like, well, what the hell happened there? But, when Thomas actually asks questions, this is text that I'm going to read. This could be irritating that I'm focusing on this too much. Maybe it is. Maybe it's irritating. If it is, then, tell me and I won't do this again. But this seriously bothers me, so I'm going to point it out. So, I'm going to read from the actual book. Before Thomas had a chance to think, questions were rushing out of his mouth. Who are those guys and what were they doing? What's in that building? He wheeled around and pointed out the east door. And why do you live inside a freaking maze? He felt a rattling pressure of uncertainty make his head splinter with pain. I'm not saying another word, Chuck replied, a new authority filling his voice. I think you should get to bed early. You'll need your sleep. Why? Why is he not saying another word? It's fine if you don't want to tell me information, if you want to withhold it. But don't do it because your character's just a stubborn asshole and literally I have no understanding of why Chuck would not tell him that. Maybe I'll find out later and this whole rant will just be moot point, but it's seriously irritating to read this. I do not like Chuck. When I have these things where Chuck acts like a dickbag and then later is told in the dialogue that Thomas, really likes Chuck. I'm getting two different things there. On one side, Chuck acts like a dickbag. On the other side, Thomas is thinking like Chuck is his only friend and really so it's like I'm being told to like Chuck, but then Chuck's actions make it so I don't like him. So what the hell's up with this writing? Hopefully I get answers and, I'm not being wrong. Anyway, beyond all of that inconsistencies, I would say, or confusing things, it's actually really cool. The idea that they're in a maze, I guess, and there's runners, and I want to know really badly what the runners are doing. I want to know what the grievers are. These are things that I really want to know, and so I'm going to keep reading because I do like it, but it's just character motivations that I have a problem with. Remember, I always do these sections in amount of stuff I have to talk about. So it'll probably be the next 2 chapters, but if nothing happens, it could be 3, whatever. Thanks for watching. If you liked this, please click the like button. I'll see you at the next chapter.